Hey, it's Rob. Welcome to Axel's Garage. Today we're out here and we're going to talk about this power steering saga that we have with the Jeep. And there's two factors that came into play. One was in these four-cylinder TJs, there is no replacement for the remote reservoir. I'll show you what that remote reservoir looks like. It's a remote reservoir like this. It slides down in a bracket on the fan shroud. And you can see how this one's all gooped up, and we'll get into why it's gooped up. So when these go bad, you can't find a replacement. There is no aftermarket that makes one of these, so you're forced to either hit a junkyard or a pull apart, or you have to figure something out and try to repair it. And that's what we did. So this started leaking, and Amanda drove her Jeep dry on it a couple of times. We really couldn't find the leak anywhere. It's real windy out here. Blew over some of my other reservoirs, but we couldn't find where the leak was initially coming from. We thought it was the hoses because it was sort of like dripping out and coming down the hoses. So we tightened the hoses. That didn't work. We replaced the hoses. Still didn't work. So she wound up running it dry a few times. Then we realized it was the reservoir leaking. So we took the reservoir out. We washed it out really good, cleaned it, and tried plastic welding. The plastic welding seemed to hold for a couple of months, and then it started seeping through, and it made its way through, and she ran it dry a couple more times, which doesn't do great things for the pump when you run it dry. So we said, well, let's just get a new one. So we start looking on eBay, and they're $150 and up for a used one. If you could find a new one, I can only imagine what they're charging for them. I don't know if anybody's actually paying that much for them. They might be. So we said, well, there's an easy fix to this, and I'll show you what we thought the easy fix was. So our perceived easy fix was going to be, let's just get a reservoir that's got some kind of tab on it, like this one here, where we can mount it. We could fab up a mount or zip tie it to that original bracket that's on the radiator support. All right, and figured it's a home run. This one's from like an 88 or an 89 Cherokee, and it's a power steering reservoir. How much difference is there? The hose inlet and outlet, right? This is the inlet coming back from your box, the small one, and the big one is going to your pump. Same size. The reservoir is a little bit bigger, so it has more capacity. How could that affect anything negatively? You know, so we put this in, mounted it up real nice, filled it up, started it up, good to go. No leaks, no drips, no runs, no errors, until she started driving it. Once she started driving it and it started to heat up a little bit, the pump started to whine. So she comes back home, says the pump it's whining like crazy. So I go out there, start it up, no whine, let it warm up a little bit, and sure enough, the pump starts whining. So what we did, we looked in the cap, and it was getting frothy. So I thought maybe it was just the power steering fluid, the old fluid, the new fluid that we put in. So we drained all the fluid out and put fresh fluid in. Started it up, and it seemed to be doing good. I drove around a little bit. It still seemed to be doing good. And I said, you're good to go. So she drove it for about an hour on the highway, and it actually boiled out and overflowed and sprayed all over the inside of the engine. She said when it did that, she had hardly any power steering. It was very tight. So I'm thinking now, the fluid's boiling out, it's getting hot, maybe the pump is shot. And I couldn't be this, right? This is just a reservoir. In, comes out, filled with fluid. It's got to be the pump. So I figured she ran it dry so many times, the pump finally went. So we got a pump, put a new pump in. Again, we purged all the fluid out as best as we can, bringing the wheel back and forth. And we did videos on it. And it's in our TJ playlist. I'll put it up here. And we figured we were good to go. New pump, new reservoir, everything's good. Same thing happened. After it warmed up, fluid started aerating, started getting hot and frothy and coming out. It's really not boiling out temperature-wise. It's boiling out because it's getting frothy. It's getting air in it. So I checked on some forums. I spoke to a couple of local mechanics and automotive technicians. I know people like to be called technicians sometimes. And they all said you're getting air in the system somehow. And they told me to look at the O-rings on the pressure hose. And they said they have found that a leaking O-ring on a pressure hose might not leak power steering fluid out, but it might suck air in. So I changed the O-rings on the pressure hose, which was a fairly new pressure hose. Changed the O-rings out, same problem. This was frothing up. So I pulled this out, cleaned it out like it is now, and I looked at the design on this compared to the design on the other one, and they pretty much come in the same way. Fluid comes in from the bottom, it sucks out from the bottom. But when this is running, when it's in the car and it's running, you could see the turbulence in the fluid in here, and it's just really, really turbulent. So I was thinking, well, what if I try to find a power steering reservoir? Now I'm thinking it's the reservoir. The pump was never an issue. I think I replaced a pump that was actually good because we're having the same problem, and the only part that was really changed that was different is this. So now I'm isolating on this, you know, and the turbulence in this, and I can't see the difference between this and the other one. It just, there really is no difference in the way the hoses, when you look down inside with a flashlight, there's really no difference in the way the fluid comes in and leaves in the two of them. But this was definitely creating a problem. So I went online and I started looking at pumps, and not at pumps, at reservoirs, and I found a reservoir for a Honda that seemed to be baffled. And what I mean by that is, it was a round reservoir, typical Honda style reservoir, with a little push-in cap on top, but the input, the return, the small line comes in the side and it hits a baffle, and then the fluid falls to the bottom. And in the bottom, there's like a false bottom where the fluid doesn't directly suck from the main chamber, it sucks from around the sides. So now what happens is the fluid hits, it falls, it settles, and then it sucks out and goes back to the pump. So it sort of stops it from being turbulent, like this one was making it be turbulent, and that actually fixed it. So if you got a Jeep that's frothing, all right, problem could very well be in your reservoir. And if you got a 4-cylinder Jeep that you can't get the reservoir and your reservoir started leaking, a 2002 to 2007 Civic 4-cylinder Honda, it works. And I fabbed up a mount using some big hose clamps, put some slots, and I'll show you. We're going to open the hood up and I'll show you what we did. So under the hood here, this is where the original reservoir mounted. What we did was we cut a couple of slots on this side of the fan shroud and on this side of the fan shroud, and put these clamps through, and we were able to mount this nice and secure. No leaks, no turbulence, nice and quiet, leak-free power steering setup. Really, really worked well. All right, if you had a little more time, I guess you could do a better mounting than we did, but it's secure, it doesn't move, it doesn't vibrate, and it does the job. So that's the fix. 2002 to 2007 Honda Civic power steering reservoir. The hoses work, right? But look at the originals, right? This is the original. This is the one from the Cherokee, right? If you look at those inputs, they're like exactly the same, and it doesn't work. If you could find one of those original reservoirs and you want to go with the original reservoir and you can get it at a decent price, that's an easy fix. But just using a standard reservoir like we did out of a Cherokee did not work. It was just turbulent in there. I don't know whether it's the pressure of the return fluid might be higher in these Jeeps than it was in the Cherokee. It just did not work whatsoever. Could I have gotten a bad reservoir? I guess possibly. I could have tried another Cherokee reservoir, but I didn't want to gamble with it because it didn't appear to be anything wrong with it. Like I said, it goes in and out the same way. But if that's your problem, here's your fix. No aeration, no fluid boiling out, no leaks, no noises, and now I probably have another good pump. I didn't throw the old one away. I kept it because there was probably nothing wrong with the pump. We probably changed it for nothing, but we got it fixed, and she's been driving the crap out of it. Now I got to do some routine maintenance because she's been driving it so much. Spring is here and the weather's getting good, and she's been taking the top off. If the pollen would just stop coming out of the trees, we'd be happy. Comments, concerns, put them down below. Let me know what you think, and as always, thanks for watching.